Hello, I'm Matt Galloway, and this is the Current Podcast. Artificial intelligence has made its way into nearly every part of our daily lives, checking our grammar to suggesting what to eat for dinner. And now, food and beverage companies are turning to AI to help create new flavors and menu items. Svante Hampf is the founder of the Kaffa Roastery in Helsinki, Finland. And the cafe asked ChatGPT to help come up with a new blend.
AI came up with the idea to blend 4 different coffees. So that was a bit different. The result compared to similar coffees that we used, it was as good or better. The coffee turned out super nice. It's sweet, it's chocolatey, there's some dark berries, hint of bergamot, and we're pleased.
They've named the blend AI-conic. Get it? They see a promising future in using AI-generated recipes in the cafe.
I think it's natural to start using AI when crafting a coffee or doing a blend. Our customers think it's a really good coffee. I think they're more thrilled about the idea of using AI. I think it's just natural to use the tools that are available to do a better coffee.
Here in Canada, companies are jumping in to use those AI tools as well. Whistleboy Brewery in Victoria used ChatGPT to create its first AI-generated brew. Isaiah Archer is a partner with the brewery. Isaiah, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Why would you want to ask ChatGPT how to develop a beer recipe?
We released our Robo Beer Hazy Pale Ale last year around this time. It was really just based out of our curiosity, just kind of understood that these chatbots were now available to the public. And I was just curious about it myself and was kind of playing around with it. And in a meeting that I had with our brewer when we were coming up with some beer concept for the upcoming months. We thought, let's just, try this out and see what happens. So it was really just based out of, this is this novel new technology and we'd like to experiment with it.
And so what did you do? What did you ask ChatGPT?
We knew we were going to create a hazy pale ale recipe. And instead of just Matt, our brewer, using his knowledge and experience to write one, we thought, let's ask this thing if it can create a hazy pale ale recipe that we actually believe would be worth making. So we said, create a recipe for a hazy pale ale, light, fluffy, tropical, and then kind of said to adjust the scale of the recipe to the system size that we use. Mm-hmm. And maybe 10 or 15 seconds later, there was a full recipe and then full brewing instructions in front of us. So just the speed in which it was able to do that was quite alarming. I will say it did kind of make a few errors as far as the ratios that we would normally use in our grain bill. But, we're using this in conjunction with humans that have a lot of experience and expertise. So our brewer was able to sort of tinker it a little bit to make sure that it was actually going to work and we would be able to have a beer that was sellable. But then after that, we really tried to stick with the AI generated recipe as closely as we possibly could.
What does the beer taste like? You called it Robo Beer?
Yeah, like for us, if anyone's followed our brewery on social media or any of that, it's pretty clear that we don't take ourselves too seriously. It was pretty on the nose. So yeah, it was sort of like a New England pale ale or Northeast pale ale. So it has some of those citrus, tropical, pineapple character along with the use of lactose, which is generally used as like a sweetener in that style of like hazy IPA or pale ale. It was like a light yellow color, very hazy, soft mouthfeel, a little bit of sweetness, balanced with some bitterness, and had some of those fruity notes. It was pretty much just like right along the lines of what we would expect a good hazy pale ale to taste like.
So it was actually good?
It was great. I won't say it was better necessarily than the stuff that we come up with ourselves. Our brewery is very small batch, so we're able to constantly experiment with different recipes and release different things. I'm not going to say it was like, this is better than what we could do, because I don't think that's true. But it was interesting to see how quickly it could come up with something that was up to the level.
Did you use, aside from the name, did you use the idea of AI as a marketing tool for this? Like, did you say to people, look, you can drink this beer, where the idea of it was cooked up by the machine?
That was the whole point. This was a marketing gimmick. I'm going to be like quite upfront about that.
Honesty is a good policy here.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we're using AI and we're integrating it into our workflows at the brewery It's, a tool that anyone can log on to if they have a Wi-Fi connection and play around with. And we thought, wow, this is interesting. This is new. I'm hearing about this everywhere in the news. It's in the zeitgeist. Let's try to take advantage of this. But it was like something that we thought we could jump on as an opportunity to try something and have a little bit of fun with it. We also have an animator that's a friend of ours that kind of helps develop some of our marketing videos. I kind of gave him the challenge, like, can you use AI tools to generate a little short film animation? And so he used like Midjourney and some other tools to develop a little very silly on the nose video about how we were working with robots to make beer. So for us, it was a very lighthearted approach and more in the spirit of interest and experimentation than to say that we're advocating for this technology. That's certainly not our stance, but our stance is to remain open-minded and to use the tools that are available to us and at least understand how this stuff works. If it's going to be ubiquitous, we ought to know how to use it.
What did Matt, your brewer, think? Did he think that his job was on the line because the machine can now make beer?
So we haven't used it since in recipe development. His job requires hands and the AI doesn't have those. So, for him, I think he felt like at least he had that going for him. But yeah, I think he doesn't take it as he's going to lose his job to the robots.
What about people? I mean, people take their beer really seriously. Craft beer has a community in which, I don't want to say there are rules, but I mean, people certainly, they get invested in it and they discuss changes to things. Were people pleased with this invention, or did that community feel like this was a step too far?
There's so many craft breweries these days that, in my mind, like if you want like a good traditional, classically well-made beer, we do a lot of those. There's literally thousands and thousands of breweries around the world that are doing that. We think that this is supposed to be fun. We're very okay with playing around with stuff as long as we know that there's integrity behind it and the quality of the product meets the strict standards that we have.
Did everybody get that joke?
There was certainly a couple of people online that were pretty pissed about it, to be honest. There's like craft beer influencers and stuff. It's a whole thing. There was a few people that were like, normally I like you guys, but this is a step too far. Like, you really shouldn't be putting people's jobs on the line. And I think like that was very much in the discourse of the time and still is, rightfully so, that like we got to be really careful about this stuff and how we're using it and why we're using it. And so, yeah, there was people that really didn't appreciate it. But I think most people that if they had been following us, they kind of understood that these people are just having some fun.
One of the things, you do this as an experiment, but like it sounds like you've learned that human touch is really important. One of the things that people are worried about is that things like AI will take, us humans out of it, that we won't be needed anymore because the machine can do just about everything. But it seems like you've kind of understood that you can do both. But the people are really still key to the work that you do. Yeah,
I think like when you talk about the craft beer community, like the community part is really the point. We're a public space. We're sort of kind of like the living room in our city here in Victoria, and people come and sit at the table with their friends and family every day. And it's the authentic human connection that makes what we do special and I think makes it good. And it's that human touch and the fact that Matt can go out and sit at a table and talk to people about, the quality of the beer, or someone says, oh, we make a beer with spirulina and it's blue. And so he can like talk to people about why did you do that? And kind of they can peer into his mind and, tour people through the space if he chooses to do that. And, those are all things that require the human touch and the human element. So I think that part of it is like the best part of it. We don't really feel threatened in that way because I think we have a lot of confidence in the fact that, it is really the connection and the relationships of the community here that make it special.
Isaiah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Isaiah Archer is a partner with Whistleboy Brewery. He was in Victoria, British Columbia. Larry McCabe is the owner of Café Bouffon, a French-inspired restaurant in Stratford, Ontario. They held a tasting event using AI-inspired food combinations. Larry, hello to you.
Good morning, Matt.
What was this AI-generated menu event?
Well, it was called Salon AI, a tech-enhanced interactive event. It was part of the Provocation Ideas Festival. I was approached by Mark Rosenfeld about doing something to collaborate for their first launch in Stratford. And of course, AI was in the news at that point. We wanted to do something provocative. And the question was, will our next master chef emerge from artificial intelligence, or is taste a uniquely human phenomenon?
Mm. And so what did you do with that brief?
Well, it was sort of an interesting thing for the team to work on. So our CAO, Chloe Miller, worked on the prompt here, which was pretty simple. It was, we are hosting an event that invites guests to a blind tasting of canapés and cocktail pairings. Half will be curated by our executive chef and half by AI, and prompted it to create 4 French canapés based on the ones provided by our chef with recipes. And that just sort of let it out, and we kind of chased it down after that.
What were some of the pairings on the menu?
For example, there was a creamy lobster vol au vent with butter poached lobster and herb mayo with puff pastry against an escargot and mushroom vol au vent and a garlicky butter pastry. The most provocative one was the one where we did actually have the AI pairing, and we also prompted them to have, for my sommelier, Steve Doyle, to pair with wines and non-alcoholic beverages, the beet brined eggs with yolk mousse and dill versus the beet carpaccio with goat cheese mousse, and that one, the AI won.
I was going to say, could people tell, and how did the chef's creation or the chef's choice compared to what the AI had cooked up?
The humans won 3-1 on this. So there were 4 pairings, and we were trying to limit it so that both the chef was not showing her hand to the apprentices, and I didn't know which pairings were which when we went into the event, because I really wanted to see whether there was anything to this for us to use at the company.
So what did you ask the artificial intelligence? I mean, I think for a chef, she or he might like have an idea. This flavor would go with this. We've used this before. This could be something that's interesting. But what did you ask the AI?
It just basically was to match these pairings that the chef had created with recipes of their own. Based on that, they came up with pairings with the recipes. We tried to keep it so that these were not dishes that would have been familiar with our patrons. So these were all new dishes in any case. So we tried to kind of take a little bit of a scientific, experimental view on this. And the apprentices did not know, and we tried to keep the paper on which the recipes were given to them, exactly the same kind of writing, just to see what happened from that.
Why did you want to do this? I mean, you were asked to do it, but why? Are you interested in AI? Why would you say yes to something like this?
I am interested in it, and I'm interested in other aspects of the food industry, particularly about how it may be able to reduce waste in our company for environmental reasons and help in sourcing things. But for this, it was really because I think anyone who has worked in a professional kitchen or with professional chefs will know the human touch is such an important and vital part of what happens with the dish that hits your table. I'll give you an example. We went on a tour of French restaurants in Toronto, and there was a restaurant that had very good food. The presentation was fantastic, but the seasoning was not there. And that's where I think it's very hard to imagine artificial intelligence because
it can't taste the food.
It can't taste the food. And it really is that human touch that ends up being the differentiator for a great restaurant versus a merely good restaurant.
Well, what do you think you hinted a couple of things. What do you think AI can do in the food world? How could it transform the food industry?
We still use it to a certain extent to generate ideas at the beginning of our menu change process. So we typically change our menus 2 or 3 times a year, both at Café Buffon and Pazzo Pizzeria, where we have 2 restaurants at the same place. And we find that, chefs are under a lot of pressure to do different things. And we're using it as a tool to generate a bunch of ideas and then narrow that down into kind of things that were worth pursuing. And I think that actually was very effective. We ended up with a dish on our pizzeria menu last year that was actually created from a prompt from ChatGPT.
And that you're doing that because you said chefs are really busy, that they might not have the time and the space to be able to come up with those ideas on their own?
Well, it's just that they sometimes like writers, they come up against writer's block. They've been working with food for a very long time, and all of us from time to time need a little bit of a push to get outside of our comfort zones, and I think that's valuable to a certain extent. It's interesting with recipes; they're not things that can be copyrighted, so it's fairly scientific, really. Combinations that work in recipes through time, we really see the use in just, getting over that hump occasionally. Chefs are under a lot of pressure to be original as well. I just want to have them be provided with tools that may get them over that hump.
Do they see it as a tool, or do they see it as an existential threat?
Well, it is, and that's the problem, is that I think that they did feel sort of threatened. I really did push it because I wanted to just say, this is just a fun event, and it's an attempt, and the idea of a salon as well is sort of an updated idea of what the French salon is about.
But you said they feel threatened?
They felt, I think, a little uncomfortable with, Courtney Noble, our head chef, is a fantastic chef, trained at the Stratford Chef School. So it is sort of, and I think you find that across many kinds of areas that there is a wariness about using these kinds of tools. So I wanted to take the pressure off. It was supposed to be just a fun event, and that's actually how it rolled out in reality.
Will you keep using AI in future?
It is going to be transformative in our industry. It's certainly being used in social media by almost every company that I'm aware of in the restaurant space. I do hope that it can help with, not even just defining recipes, but sourcing materials in proximity, and possibly prompting for substitutive ingredients that may be a little cheaper. Or, there's a lot of pressure on hospitality companies now, especially post-pandemic. And if that can help with the way that we run the restaurants, I'm happy to use it. But I think the chefs will always be core to what happens.
Larry, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Matt.
Larry McCabe is the owner of Café Buffon, a restaurant in Stratford, Ontario. Bernard Laus is co-founder of the company Food Pairing. This company specializes in AI-generated food pairings. He's with us from Ghent in Belgium. Bernard, hello to you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. What is, in the context of everything we've been talking about, what does your company, Food Pairing, do?
Well, actually, we help chefs and food companies to develop better products faster. So we have analyzed over the last 15 years more than 21,000 ingredients. So you can actually make a computer taste a product and have the chemical makeup. And we have created AI algorithms that then can predict what are the best combinations.
How does the computer taste the products?
Well, you have equipment that actually can analyze the aroma compounds, the taste compounds, the texture of a product. So you digitize the food product. And once the computer has a digitized product, it can actually generate combinations, but it can also generate recipes.
So it breaks it down to, once it's analyzed, it breaks it down to the compounds and then figures out which compounds would work with other compounds.
Yeah, indeed. Like, for example, the first combination that we ever launched was a kiwi with oyster combination. And it combined because it had certain molecules in common that smelled like the sea.
Mm. Why would somebody use something like this?
Well, if you look at chefs, as the previous speaker told, chefs are under pressure. Consumers want new, exciting food. So like 10 years ago, a bit more, you had El Bulli, the number one at that time, that closed his restaurant for 6 months to test thousands of combinations. Chefs don't have the time now to do that. So it adds efficiency and it adds creativity. For the food industry, if they launch products on the market, only 1 in 10 products is successful. So our AI models can actually predict which products will be successful on the market.
How often are you surprised with what the AI generates?
Well, so we analyze every day about 100 new products from around the world. Some products can be very specific, like ants or certain insects or certain kimchi from South Korea. There are always surprising combinations in there, yeah.
Give me, you mentioned the one with the kiwi and the oysters. Give me a couple of other examples of interesting pairings that artificial intelligence has cooked up.
Well, for example, for Mugaritz, a restaurant in Spain, we did a cauliflower, grape, and nutmeg desserts. or crab with strawberry. Chocolate with bacon, maybe that's a more obvious combination. You can add coffee powder to pumpkin soup, or hazelnut to green beans, or strawberry and ketchup. All of these combinations come out of this analysis.
Does the AI always get it right, or are there things that it creates and you actually taste them and you're like, oh my goodness, this is terrible?
Well, because we have a domain-specific AI, while ChatGPT is more very generic, we created over the last 15 years. Because we have the data on the chemical analysis, what comes out always works. But still, what the chef will actually do with it will be influenced by the personality of the chef or his experience.
What to you is most exciting about this?
There are a lot of challenges that are in the future. For example, climate change, the health crisis. So the big advantage of having AI on top of food industry is because it helps food companies, chefs to move much faster into healthy food. For example, with Imperial College in London, we worked for low-income families with obese children, and the model asked what are food that they liked. Of course, they liked the burgers and the pizzas, but then the model was able to step by step nudge them into fruits and vegetables. So it can help those families to eat more healthy.
How would it do that? How would the model do that in a way that doctors or parents or other people couldn't?
Well, the model also asked what the family likes. And based on what the family likes, the model actually can extract what are the chemical composition that drives the liking of that family. And then it can look for other products that also have those chemicals. And when it starts to nudge, it will also look for something quite similar to the flavor profile that they know. But step by step, it will open the door to fruits and vegetables that they don't know. But through the flavor learning, people will actually like to learn those products. Mm.
What sort of pushback have you had from people in the food world? I can think of, French chefs in particular. Tradition is so important in much of French cooking. It changes, obviously, but there is a heart of tradition, and even changing the slightest thing in some of those traditional menus can get you in a lot of trouble. What kind of pushback have you had from chefs to this idea?
So if we started 15 years ago, we clearly had a division between a younger group of chefs, which were really open to use new tools, and a more older generation. But it's also more like a country specific, like the Spanish chefs are much more open than the French chefs. The US and the Canadian chefs are also much more open because they have less of a culinary tradition. But we also see now in France and in Italy, also more and more chefs using these tools to make new exciting combinations.
What do you think we lose in using a tool like this?
I don't think we lose anything.
You don't think we lose anything at all?
No, you gain efficiency, you gain creativity. Now a chef, when they make a combination, they will start from what they know and maybe by accident find something new. What if you have a tool that actually can taste all the products in the world and can combine a specific product you have in your market with something which is in South Korea, which you would never think of combining. So you're actually opening new doors for better experiences, more delicious food.
I guess just finally, the thing that a lot of people think that we're going to lose are people, that the chef will then essentially just become a line cook where they don't have to dream up these ideas. They're just told, combine this with this, with this, with this. And it's like you're building from, you're building Lego or something like that. You're not building food. Do you worry that people's jobs will disappear, or at least the creativity of the jobs will disappear with something like this?
The AI can give you solutions. It's still up to you to decide which of the solutions that you take. The tool is now 15 years online, and still chef 1 versus 2 will create something completely different. So I don't think it will limit the creativity. At the contrary.
It's a fascinating idea. Thank you for telling us about it.
Thank you.
Bernard Laus is the co-founder of the AI company Food Pairing.